Oh my God, did you guys just see that? I mean, holy sh**. Hey, I'm Jerry, and yes, Apple just finished up their March event and dropped a frickin' bomb. Now, of course, we have Luke Miani to thank for busting all of this wide open yesterday, but who cares? Now it's official. We have the brand new Mac Studio. And this guy is everything that you might want from a super powerful, tiny little desktop computer, but not tiny in price, as you'll see. This compact beast comes in about 7.7 inches square and just under 4 inches tall. And look at that. You see that? You see that? There's an SD card slot on the front, along with a couple Thunderbolt or USB 4 ports, depending on which processor you get in this thing. And I'm still pretty much speechless because the event just ended a few minutes ago. I've already placed an order, so we'll get to pricing and configuration in a minute. But let's see what Apple has to offer on this page. All right, so first up, they want to talk about connectivity. And yes, besides the front USB or Thunderbolt ports and an SD card slot on the back, we actually get 4 more Thunderbolt ports. We get 10 gigabit Ethernet. Yes, 10 gigabit. I'm super excited about it. You probably don't need it. You probably don't need it, but I need it because I have a 10 gigabit network in my house. Got a power connector, 2 USB-A ports, which I have to say is the biggest surprise of the day for me to actually get USB-A ports on a new computer. There's a single HDMI port for connecting a display and a headphone audio out jack. And just look at the design on the back of this thing. I think they said there's 2,000 drilled holes in the back, which is crazy to look at. That's a lot of cooling compared to the size of the whole machine. And when it comes to processors, you actually get a couple of options inside this brand new Mac Studio. You can get the M1 Max that debuted with the MacBook Pros a few months ago, which comes with a 10-core CPU, a 32-core GPU, up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory, or you can get the brand new M1 Ultra, which is like, 2 chips like kind of fused together. And every time they said M1 Ultra on stage, I started to think of MK Ultra and started to wonder if I was just in some kind of government-sponsored LSD experience. But the M1 Ultra comes with a 20-core CPU, up to 64 gigabytes of GPU, 128 gigabytes of unified memory, up to with 800 gigabytes of memory bandwidth. I mean, the way Apple rattled off performance benchmark and test, comparing it to the other Macs and other PCs and to graphics cards was just kind of mesmerizing because they just kept going bam, 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 bam. We're 30% faster, we're 60% faster. It was nuts. But according to Apple, this M1 Ultra is up to 5.3 times faster than the i9 version of the 27-inch iMac, and up to 5 times faster than the 27-inch iMac with the Radeon Pro 5700 XT. And it's just mind-blowing that Apple can just keep increasing the performance exponentially versus their previous computers and competitors. I mean, it supports up to 9 streams of 8K ProRes playback. It has 57 billion transistors, can do up to 11 trillion operations per second, supports up to 5 displays, and you can get up to 8 terabytes of SSD. So what is all that performance going to cost you? A lot. Like, a lot. All right, so like I said, you get the option of choosing an M1 Max or an M1 Ultra CPU to start building your brand new Mac Studio. For $19.99, you can get a Mac Studio with the 10-core CPU, 24 GPU, 16-core neural engine, 32 gigabytes memory, and 500 gigabytes of SSD storage. And of course, you can configure that with a couple of different options, including the 32-core GPU on the M1 Max, along with 64 gigabytes of memory, and of course, up to 8 terabytes of storage, which is gonna run a pretty penny of about, $5,000. Now, if you want all the power and you want the M1 Ultra, that's gonna start you at $39.99. So for that $39.99, you can get that M1 Ultra chip, which is 2 M1 Max chips basically fused together, and that will give you that 20-core CPU and a 48-core GPU, along with a 32-core neural engine. If you wanna bump that up to the 64-core GPU, that's gonna run you another $1,000. You do get 64 gigabytes of base memory with the M1 Ultra, and you can bump that up to 128 gigabytes for surprisingly $800, which seems like a deal in Apple memory to get 64 gigabytes of memory for $800. You get the 1 terabyte of storage with the base M1 Ultra config, and that can go up to 8 terabytes as well for another $2,200. So, what do I order? Man, I want a lot of internal storage in a beast like this, but I just don't think I can justify it at this time with the expense of the rest of the computer. I want 128 gigabytes of memory, but I don't need 128 gigabytes. The 32 gigabytes on my M1 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch, this guy, is plenty for what I use. So I think I'm gonna stick with 64 gigabytes. Now when it comes to GPU, again, I really don't use a whole lot of GPU power except when I'm exporting videos with Final Cut Pro or working in Final Cut Pro. So 64 cores would be awesome, but I'm gonna stick with 48. So yes, I think the base M1 Ultra Mac Studio is the one for me. And good news, I was able to order mine before the event ended. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bells and notifications and all that stuff so you can be the first to see my unboxing and first test of this brand new Mac Studio coming next Friday. I cannot wait to see how this guy performs. Look at this thing. I mean, the design inside, it's so much of it is just the cooling apparatus to keep this thing nice and cool. And Apple says it's gonna be nice and quiet sitting right on your desk as well. And of course there is that brand new Studio display that Apple announced alongside with it. It looks very similar to the Pro Display XDR. And yes, I did go ahead and order one of those bad boys as well. And that's a 27-inch 5K display, 600 nits of brightness, speakers, mics, camera, all that stuff built in, a couple of different stand options, so we'll get more into that in the next video. But yes, I did go ahead and order one of those bad boys as well. So that is my first reaction to the announcement of the brand new Mac Studio with the M1 Ultra chip. This thing looks absolutely insane and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. So let me know below, what do you guys think about this brand new Mac Studio computer? Is it exactly what you thought? Is it more than you need? Is it exactly what you want? Is it too expensive? I don't know. Let me know below. Hit the thumbs up button if you liked it. Hit subscribe if you want because we're gonna be doing a lot of videos on these and I'll see you next time.